In the previous video, we learned about synchronous and asynchronous JavaScript. Now let's understand one of the most important concepts in GSs, which is callbacks. Callbacks are the functions of asynchronous programming in JavaScript, and they are used everywhere from basic functions to real-world applications like APIs and frameworks. So first of all, what is a callback? A callback is simply a function which is passed as an argument to another function. Right? So here, like this is a function, right? We simply pass some arguments, right? Okay, let me write one more function over here. So if I write function and name it is greet, right? And here I am simply adding name. I will not add anything for now. And this is the function, right? And I simply write console.log, right? And we can write hey and space, then plus the name. And if I call this function here, right, I am calling greet and let's say John. Okay, just save it and run it. If you see over here, okay, John is not defined. The thing is like, okay, I need to pass this as an what we say string, right? Now it will pick that string and this one should work. See, now it's passing a hey John and I am passing John from here and it's getting carried over here. But what if I can pass a function? Suppose I have this simple function which I call. If I call that function, it will just print goodbye, say bye. I need not pass any arguments or anything like that. It is a simple function, right? So here it called and it said goodbye. It is just printing it on the console. But I can even pass this function as an argument over here. Let me see. I am passing this function over here, right? Now I need not call it. Okay. I am just passing it from here, and if I am calling greet, simply I should be catching it over here. Just write anything like, okay, let me say function. You can write anything over here, right? Now this function is passed to here, and here I can just call that function again. So say by is now in passed on to fn, and if I simply call fn over here, it will say goodbye. Rerun it. You see, hey John, and it's saying goodbye. I need not separately call this function. First of all, I am waiting for this salutation to happen and then this function will get called automatically after that. So this is callback, right? You are not simply calling like this function is internally calling this function, right? It is waiting for these steps to execute and then execute this one later on. So this is called a callback, right? So why callbacks are used? Callbacks are used when we want to run code after something happens or handle asynchronous task. Asynchronous is which is not happening from top to bottom, right? For example, like when we are clicking a button, right? We need to wait for the button to click and page to load, right? We need to wait for the data to load. There are some timers used, API calls happening. So let's understand those one by one with the help of examples. So let me take another example. We can, okay, simply come here. I will just comment for this now. Okay, and then, okay, I am simply printing something over here, console.log and start. So here we will understand like how callback happens with timeout. So then we simply set timeout. You know how we set timeout? We use functions, right, for timeout. And then here inside function, what we will be passing is timeout. We have named as a function. You can simply log anything or write anything which you want to execute, like inside timeouts. Okay, and here we simply need to pass the time for which we want it to wait, like let's say 1 second. It will wait for 1 second and then this one will get executed, and I am simply saying console.log and here and okay. So here ideally if JavaScript were synchronous, right, it should execute from top to bottom, but here we are setting a timeout. It will not wait for this to execute. It will simply execute the next statement and then after that this one will be called back, right? It does not wait for the set timeout. It moves ahead and runs the other code and then comes over here. Okay, let's save it and run it for easy understanding. See, start, then end, and then it went back. Like the callback happened automatically for the timeout, and it printed this one got executed after that, right? So that is like callback for timeouts and callback as a function parameter, right? Let's understand that as a function parameter, right? Oh, sorry. In Python, actually, we use these. So I am, used to those hash now for doing the comments. Function. Okay. Let me add anything, process user, ABC, anything like that you can add, right? It's up to you. Console dot log. Okay. Processing this task or user, anything you can write for your easy understanding, right? It's processing this, and then what we will do is we will add a callback in this function. Okay, let me write another function. Okay, done. Just I am just keeping the names. You can keep any names to understand, right? Console. This one is going to match with the first example we did, right? Here user processed, right? And we will call this process user over here, and we will pass. Okay, let's pass this function over here, like done. I am passing done over here. This method is passed here, and this done will be now received over here. Okay, we can receive anything. You can write, okay, function done or something like that, and then you can call that function over here now. So what is happening is you called process user function, okay, and passed this function done as a parameter. It received it here. It did whatever work it had to do before doing calling this function, and at the end it's calling this function now, right? So now the callback will happen to done function. This pattern is very important in JavaScript, passing functions into another functions, right? So if I simply execute this, save it, clear the console, and let's go. See, user processed, right? This one processed, and like first of all this happened, processing this task, right? And then user got processed over here. So this inside timeouts is from the examples we tested earlier, okay? And okay, one there is more way, like if this done, right, whatever I am doing here, I can write this done as a arrow function as well. So in modern JavaScript we often use arrow functions as callback. So how to convert this into an arrow function? That is really easy. Just write done, okay, and inside done what we will do is write this uh, brackets and then mark a arrow key and curly braces. So this curly braces, after curly braces everything is same, right? So even this is same. If you see over here, we need not write the name of the function again here, or need not use keyword function, okay? And here inside console dot log I can write executing done method, right? And this one I can remove for now and save it and run it. The output will be same as the one what we did earlier. Start end process. Okay, here what we did is done is not defined. So here it is saying reference error, done is not defined. Okay, so we did one mistake over here. What we are doing is done, and then we are calling the function done and passing this as an argument, but we haven't defined done, right, as any function. So there are two things we can do. One is we store this value in one constant done, right? And simply write equal to. So now this arrow function is stored inside this done variable, and we pass this variable done as a method function to another function. And now it should work. Okay, let me clear the console and rerun it. See, now it works. Or second thing what we could do is we simply rename this done to process user, right? So control Z, Z. Okay. here what I am doing is I am calling function process user over here. I need not call it again because I am simply calling it over here, right? And passing this arrow function as an argument over here in function done. Okay, this is a function passed over here, and first it executes this processing this task, and then this will call this arrow function, right? So let me rerun this. Again, the same thing is happening, right? So we did one small mistake over here. We were just here like it was calling some done function, right? Here, and we were passing arrow function as an argument. So that was the only mistake we did. I think if you understood, it's okay. I am going to repeat for one more time. Here, what we were doing is we were okay. If I write process user is a function, right? And this process inside, I am calling process user function over here, right? Simply, if we have to call any function, we simply write name of the function and we write it like this, right? Suppose ABC a function, I call these parameters and the function get calls. And if I pass anything here, right, that is what I am doing here. I am passing this, right? So if I pass any variable over here, right, simply, okay, let me take the example process user. If I simply pass over here, right, name, it means I am passing name as a argument. But here what we are passing is we are passing a arrow function as an argument. So this arrow function is passed on here and called back then over here. That is what was happening. Or if we want to call it normally like this, right? What we need to do is I simply need to store this done inside one variable, right? And then pass this variable as an arrow function, right? Here what I'm doing is this arrow function is stored inside variable done. Now I am passing that here and calling it over here. So this is a simple concept for callback. So now you understand the foundation of asynchronous JavaScript, like what callbacks are, why they are used, asynchronous behavior, passing functions and argument, callback hell problem. So okay, what is callback hell problem? If I like if there are multiple callbacks happening, we nest too many callbacks, code becomes messy and hard to understand. Let me explain you with an example. Suppose okay, we added one timeout over on the top. Let's reuse that. Here is this set timeout, right? So here I am calling one. Only I wrote one statement console. What if I call another timeout inside this one, right? I can do that. Then then pass an arrow function, right? And then curly braces and simply print something console.log. Let me write second timeout. Okay. Then again, what I can do is I can write one more timeout inside timeout, right? So it will again call this timeout now. That timeout, then again pass arrow functions, right, for executing it, and then curly braces start. And here inside timeout, I need to write third console.log third timeout. Same thing I am doing over here. But one thing I forgot is I forgot to add timeout over here. And same thing is 1 second I will add over here, right? So let me simply run this code. Inside timeout, second timeout, third timeout, right? So I am like, first of all, I called this timeout. It called internally second timeout and it called this third time. So this is called callback hell example, right? Code becomes deeply nested and becomes difficult to maintain. So, okay, that was the final summary. If this video helped you understand callbacks clearly, don't forget to like and subscribe this one. In the next video, we will solve the callback problem using the JavaScript promises.